Good afternoon, everyone. For the record, my name is Enrique Pepin, District 5 City Councilor. I am the chair of the Boston City Council Committee on City Services and Innovation Technology. Today I'm joined by my colleagues in order of arrival: Councilor Brian Worrell, Council President Ruthie Louis-Jen, Councilor Ed Flynn, Councilor Aaron Murphy, Councilor Sharon Durkin. This hearing is being recorded. It is being live streamed at boston.gov/citycouncil-TV and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and Files Channel 964. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.go@boston.gov and will be made a part of the record and available to all councilors. Public testimony will be taken at the end of this hearing. If you wish to sign up for public testimony here in the chamber, please sign in on the sheet near the door. If you are looking to testify virtually, please email Cora Montrond at cora.montrond@boston.gov for the link, and your name will be added to the list. Today's hearing is on Docket 0189, in order for a hearing regarding providing technological assistance to civic associations and outlining best practices for civic associations. At this time, I would like to pass it over to the lead sponsor of this hearing order, Councilor of District 4, Brian Worrell.
Thank you, Chair, for hosting this hearing, and thank you to my co-sponsors, Council President Louis-Jen and Councilor Coletta. As we gather today to discuss the role of civic associations in our community, it's important to recognize the essential outreach work they perform. Each council office engages closely with these associations, understanding that they are grassroots powerhouses connecting local government with its residents. However, they face significant challenges, often operating with limited resources and volunteer support. This hearing is an opportunity for us to listen, understand their needs, and explore how we can support them more effectively. By providing technical assistance, language access, and outlining best practices, we can support these organizations to better serve and represent our communities. My office hired Christina Glover to support the civics in my district. She was able to create mailing lists, websites, social media pages, flyers, logos, and provided countless other support for civics throughout the district. Working with our association leaders, she helped civics increase their ability to engage with residents to build their engagement and impact. By providing funds for these activities, we can help increase democratic participation and our ability to shape our communities. I understand concerns that politics will play two roles of a role in being awarded a grant, but as we look forward to funding a grant program, we must ensure that these concerns are addressed by creating a transparent process, allowing for civic participation, and ensuring a fair review. City government and our civics must be aligned on these values: that civic engagement improves outcomes, that increased civic participation at the local level is necessary for building a stronger future together, that all opinions and perspectives are welcome, and that we hold space and acknowledge the disagreements that come with shaping that future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. At this time, I'd like to recognize the co-sponsor of this hearing order, Council President Ruthie Louis-Jen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank Councilor Worrell for adding me as a co-sponsor to this important docket, a conversation that we started last term and that's continuing. I want to thank the administration, Chief Malore, for being here, and I want to thank all of the community leaders and civic leaders that I see here. As an at-large city councilor, I know that every neighborhood has civic associations that are really doing yeoman's work, oftentimes on a volunteer basis without the support from the city that I think could be really helpful. So I'm here really to listen to the administration and to listen to civic leaders from across the city on how best the city can partner with them to achieve their goals, and how we are also having these conversations right now about what Article 80 reform looks like and what is the role and how do we support a role of community? How do we help civic associations with their own diversity efforts, making sure that we are including homeowners and renters and everyone into this space, and how we can really partner to really make sure that our civic associations continue to be what they are, thriving centers for people to really engage and to uplift civic participation into our efforts to build a more just, more equitable city of Boston. So really happy to be here, and most importantly, really happy to listen to community advocates tell us what they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Councilor Murphy.
Murphy. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Brianna, over there alone. Good to see you. Obviously, or not obviously, I should say that, but just happy to be here to talk about this need. And Councilor Worrell brought it up. There is a fine line between city government getting too directly involved in neighborhood associations and then maybe taking some of their power away, because then we don't want city government to be controlling that independent voice that I see across the city. I do like to share the story that my grandfather back in the 60s was the president of Pope's Hill Neighborhood Association, and he knew that the work they needed to do to really have their voice heard at City Hall, that one voice wasn't enough, and he created DUNA, the Dorchester United Neighborhood Association, which brought neighborhood associations together to amplify their voice and got a lot of great things done. And one of the reasons why the Richard J. Murphy School was named after him in that park nearby, because his voice alone isn't enough. So happy to see that we have neighborhood advocates here today to share what their concerns will be. But also it reminds me of our BCYF centers, where we have councils who their work on fundraising is what directly affects the programming they can give to their children. One of the things many people, myself included, didn't know until I got here on the council, that so it's not equitable across the city, that not every community center has the ability to raise funds to offer the same, right? So making sure that every neighborhood association has the same ability, at least, right, to organize and have their needs heard here at City Hall. And I think it's also a good time to have the conversation about the difference between a neighborhood association, a civic association. It's oftentimes when it comes to zoning issues, and some will say, well, we're a neighborhood association, we don't vote. Some do vote, but then also they're frustrated because even though overwhelmingly their vote went a certain way, the city isn't listening. So I think it's also important that we set parameters and we're just upfront about how much power, right, and how much more we want, and open to that discussion, and happy that we have people from the community here also to talk. So looking forward to the conversation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the co-sponsors for bringing this important subject forward. I want to say thank you to Chief Miller also for being here, and to acknowledge the important role, Chief, you're playing in the city. I had the opportunity to join Councilor Fernandez Anderson and the Chief last night, along with our colleague John Moran, the state legislator, for a civic association meeting sponsored by the St. Botolph Street Neighborhood Association. And I referenced that because it was almost a 3-hour meeting, but residents had great advice, great feedback, great opportunity to listen to residents, to engage residents, and to learn from residents about quality of life issues, neighborhood concerns facing their neighborhood. It's like that in the south end of the Back Bay, and I know it's like that across the city. They play a critical role in our city. They provide positive leadership and engagement, and just want to acknowledge the civic associations that are here, but also the civic associations that are watching from home as well. Thank you for the important work you do in the city. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Durkin.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you to Brian Worrell for sponsoring this. I'm excited to take part in this conversation. What we know in our city is that there's no cookie cutter version of what civic groups do, and across my 5 neighborhoods, there is a huge diversity in what civic groups focus on and talk about. And so, in light, trying to bring all of those voices to the conversation, honored to have some representatives of the Neighborhood Association of the Back Bay here. And I think it's really important that, some of the help that some civic groups may need are kind of the opposite of what others may need. And I think trying to figure out what works for civic organizations and how we can uplift their voices, also while realizing that all neighborhoods are different. And we live in a really diverse and amazing city that has so many civic leaders that pour all of themselves into what they do, but all have different focuses. So some of the things that have been brought to my attention are part of the financial side of this might be, the city being involved financially in civic orgs might constitute a conflict of interest in some ways, and excited to engage more in the conversation around what civic groups are looking for, how we can support them either with technical expertise, because I think that's what a lot of people are looking for is how do you set up a Zoom link? How do we create a room? How can we use our civic organizations to, how can we use our city resources to support civic organizations in organizing meetings? So I think this is a really important conversation and excited to take part. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor. Just recognizing that Councillor Coletta has also joined us for today's hearing. Thank you for being here. Now I'd like to call on Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Councilor Rell. Really appreciate your being the lead sponsor on this. I see that. To the co-sponsors as well, Council President Lujan, Councilor Coletta. And I know that we had done a little bit of work last year on this, and appreciate the conversation coming back to the table. I think from my perspective, considering in District 7 that I've created this roundtable, if you will, after the Brother Chuck, peace be upon him, roundtable idea, we created an advisory council, essentially bringing all the civic associations, one coalition of civic associations where we meet weekly to organize. And through this experience have realized that there's tremendous need for technical assistance as well as funding for whether it be events or coordinated efforts for different activities. And then you get into like the digital integration side, right? Where, okay, where does this live? Where's the platform? How are we communicating? And then is there a need for a database? Are we doing inventories? And to do that, to lead in policy or project ideas based on needs for the community, you have to be able to, begin all of these studies and different surveying and things like that goes on in civic associations. And as you've mentioned, Mr. Counselor, you've basically, they do this voluntarily. They do this without any pay, without, it's a thankless, and it's a real job. Like they take a lot of time. So they invest a lot of time in it. I think also considering that some constituents have expressed that there is a concern here, or a possible concern of a conflict of interest if the city is supporting civic associations financially or even at a small increment. Does that mean it poses some sort of conflict of interest issue of some sort of quid pro quo conflict? And I think that there are ways that we can have this conversation to make this possible in a way that we can use language or stipulations to ensure that that does not happen, that there's no need for a feeling of possible retaliation if a civic association, for example, does not stand with the administration's policy. Does that mean that then they don't get the grant, and are they beholden to them if they do get the grant or something like that? Obviously, this is a conversation. It's a possibility. From council, I've spoken with Councilor Orell, and he's given me his idea, and it's been like a real thorough, fluid conversation on this in terms of where he wants this conversation to go. So I look forward to it. Chief, always a pleasure seeing you. You're amazing yesterday. Everyone in the district or in the Civic Association later was complimenting you. So thank you so much for being here. Look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Coletta.
Thank you, Chair Pepin. Always good to see you as chair, and thank you to my colleagues for being here, and thank you to Chief Malor. It's so great to see you. I was very proud to be a co-sponsor or third co-sponsor with Councilor Worrell and Councilor Louis Jean. I've been going to Civic Association meetings starting back in 2015 when I first worked for State Rep Adrian Modero, and so have been shoulder to shoulder with a lot of my folks in East Boston first and then Charlestown in the North End. And I've seen the dedication and time and energy that they've invested in their community because they care about their community, where it's a lot easier to be at home and being with your family. They're out there because they want to make their own particular corner of the universe better and brighter. So in this new hybrid world, technological assistance is certainly something that I'm hoping we could help them with. I've heard issues from other civic associations about translation services, babysitting, accessibility assistance as well. We have somebody who is hard of hearing and or deaf in the North End, and so we had to work to try to get a signer there to make sure that they could be involved in community. And so who's on the hook for that, to pay for that? It's largely the Civic Association. And then also liability insurance. There was an incident at one of our civic associations where somebody was threatening violence, and that is obviously not acceptable, and the police intervened, but then it got some of the board wondering, okay, well, who is liable if something happens? So these are all things that I would like to talk about and look forward to the conversation, and just happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. What I'll say is, as the former Director of Neighborhood Services and attending many of those neighborhood association meetings, I just want to thank you, Chief Malor, for being here today. Recognizing what role neighborhood associations and civic groups play in our city is it's a very strong one. That's why I'm very happy to be here chairing this hearing today, and thanking Councilor Worrell for bringing this to the table, because it's a conversation that needs to happen. Just attending a lot of these meetings, as my colleagues mentioned, there is a lot of questions about technical support. How can they expand their services? How can they upgrade their services? If they want to create a website for themselves, use Zoom, create social media tactics, but also even increase their membership. I know that a lot of them are interested in making sure that their membership is expanded to cover more of the neighborhood. So just happy to explore that conversation as well today. But just wanted to thank you for being here, and now give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
So hello everyone. I'm going to move this closer because I feel it's weirdly far away. Brianna Malor. I am the Chief of Community Engagement. I oversee 311, Office of Civic Organizing, Spark Boston, as well as Office of Neighborhood Services. I want to start off by thanking the chair. Thank you, Councilor Pepin, for all you do in the community, and obviously your love for ONS as well. Thank you to the lead sponsor, Councilor Worrell, and to the co-sponsors, Councilor President Louis Jean, as well as Councilor Coletta and all the councilors that are here today. I want to start off by underscoring the sentiment that I'm hearing in this room. Civics are where we're connecting with people, where people are connecting with each other, and we cannot do anything successful in the city, in City Hall, if it's not for our civic associations. I think we're all aligned here that when we talk about what it means to better Boston, civic associations, councils, and civic groups are at the center of that and leading that conversation. So. As today I see, 4 Point in the room, Back Bay, Mattapan, Dorchester line, some other people behind me, but it's the one topic that really unites the entire city. So excited to be here today and to lead a cabinet that leads a lot of this work. I want to start off by underscoring 3 words and then diving into the importance of civics as well, and looking forward to the work we're going to do together. So as the philosophy that kind of guides, I think, this conversation, as well as the work that we do in community engagement, really centers around 3 words when it comes to civics. Invest, equip, and empower. It is important to make sure, of course, we are investing our civic associations, whether that means with a block party grant where it is investing monetarily. We know when civics are allowed to activate their particular streets and corridors, they get the neighbors, their neighbors outside of their doors and on the streets. That builds stronger and healthier neighborhoods. That also can look like block parties, investing up in Love Your Block, which means beautification of their neighborhoods, cleanups, or the recently launched grant that we've had on youth sports, not necessarily a civic association, but organizations that center around neighborhoods and community, whether that means the Dorchester Eagles or like any civic group any sports group that centers around community or a neighborhood. So we know when we invest monetarily into our civic and community groups that they're able to do a lot more. Equipped. When we equip the knowledge and information that we have as a city to our civic organizations and to our community groups, they're a lot stronger. We were able to hold the Civic Summit that happened time is mushing together, in January of this year, where we were able to have training sessions for specific community leaders. We only had about 200 folks able to go because it was our pilot, but we look for expansion into the new year. And I also want to underscore that Civic Summit was birthed from previous councilor Maureen Feeney and previous councilor Andrea Campbell. A lot of the work that they have done has centered around how do we uplift and build our civic association. So that's about equipping equipping information. Because at the summit we were able to talk about how to use social media, how do you connect with each other to strengthen your network. And last but not least, empower. When you have monetary investment as well as equipping our people and our communities with information and arming them with information, we know they're a lot stronger. So I view it as my responsibility to make sure all three of those things, of course, are happening within our neighborhood associations. And I look forward to making sure there is a deep partnership. And I want to underscore just the Councilor Flynn as well as Councilor Anderson were able to be at a very well-attended St. Paul annual meeting last night. Something happened in that room that I was talking to Councilor Flynn earlier. There was a new member that was it seemed like they probably were just coming to the meeting for the first time. And it was really to the work that Joan's doing. They're doing outreach and doing intentional engagement to get people out. And they were able to be in a room where they're talking about different intersections, and they were worried about trash and rodent control. And they were able to participate in a conversation they probably didn't know what happened before. And it's really important to make sure we're doing the invest, equip, empower, especially for new residents that want to join neighborhood associations as well. So thank you for everyone's leadership here, and I look forward to a more intensive conversation and working this through.
Thank you, Chief Malloy. At this time, I want to open up to questions to my colleagues. I'll give you all 5 minutes for the first round, and then we'll do a second round if there's follow-up questions. But I'll start off with the main sponsor of this hearing, Councilor Worrell.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Chief Malloy, for all that you do for the City of Boston and for leading, ONS and that powerhouse of a department. Through your work, whether it's the Civic Summit or just being out in the community, have you identified any common challenges amongst civic groups?
Yes. So I definitely think that, one, no civic organization is the same. Right. It's I believe Councilor Durkin or Murphy may have said this, there's no cookie cutter, even being in the room, they all kind of operate differently, whether that means a council that has been, the Charlestown Neighborhood Council has been here for a very long time and been active for a very long time, or a civic association that started during the pandemic, for example. The needs kind of run the gamut, but the common themes that I'm seeing for sure is definitely needing support with technical support, making sure they're better communicated, there's strong lines of communication with the city, and also making sure that they're just aware and looped into information. To be honest, not every neighborhood really brings up monetary support, mainly just like technical support.
Awesome. And I know you mentioned at the Civic Summit there was like some training. Is there any, and I love that idea, right? You know, teach someone how to fish, right? You don't have to, you know, keep on coming back. So is there any plans to make sure that that's something that civics could dive into or get throughout the year instead of, you know, at the summit?
Yes. So one of the key things that was birthed out of the Civic Summit is expansion to the civic organizing team. It's a tiny team that is 3 people right now, technically. We look to kind of expand the capacity there to have a specific person that's focused on trainings. Right now, we're doing it on a smaller scale just due to capacity. So we have follow-up meetings with the civics that we're able to attend, which is just the kind of like 200 people. We look towards expanding just due capacity reasons, but we're still definitely in the infancy as an administration of like building off of the Civic Summit, but there's definitely an appetite to expand.
Awesome. And then I know just by talking to some of the civics, like some of them collect money, some of them don't. However, some of the things that they use, like whether it's constant contact, the mail server, a website, that does require some funding. This is a volunteer service that our civics do. Is there any, thought to giving just to support those, basics level service of just getting the word out? Because we're also asking our civics to host a butter meetings on developments, on all the stuff that's going in the city. Any thought around just supporting those baseline services for our civics?
I definitely think we could talk a little bit more about what that looks like, of course. We have done support with, Zoom, how to do breakout rooms, stuff like that. But definitely we know that if they're not able to advertise their services, people will not be able to know what's happening. So there's definitely, we could definitely look into more of what that looks like to make sure they have the support they need to advertise and be on social media, et cetera, which is what during the Civic Summit, one of the sessions was specifically about, like how to increase your social media presence, how to engage on social media, how to get the word out there about it's also just advertisement about the work you're doing.
Awesome. Yeah. And the other thing that I constantly get, right, when I'm walking through the neighborhood, I'm like, hey, go to your civic group. And that's not something that's advertise like who your city council is. You could go to a website, type in the website, your address, it'll pop up who's your city councilor. We don't have that for our civics, right? I have to go to a map to kind of find out what catchment area you live in order to direct you to that right civic. Any thought on creating that type of website for our civics so residents could kind of understand what civic group they belong to get the information that you're equipping them with?
I think there's definitely something that we can look into. My default is always to say connect with your neighborhood liaison. Everyone, you don't even have to know what street you live on. It's like you live in Mattapan, you connect with your liaison. We can help you navigate city resources as well as the civics. It's a very low, it's lower than being like, oh, I live on River Street. But what part of River Street do you live on? When someone can help you navigate it.
Right. No, that's a good point, right? Because I think on River Street there's three or four different civic groups. Yeah. Well, thank you, Chief Molor, for all that you do, and no further questions here.
Thank you, sir. Before we continue, I do want to ask for the public panelists, Nina, Bill McDonald, Lisa Beeman, if you want to join Chief Molor. Nina, sorry. To be on the panel with Chief Molor. That way we can ask all of you the questions, since there's only 2 of you here. And Lisa's virtual. No.
You got me up here with a heavy hitter. Hold on.
Nina, would you like to just introduce yourself real quick?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nina Johnson Letona, and I'm the leader of the Woodrow Avenue Neighborhood Association. Thank you all for inviting me here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to proceed with Q&A. Oh, yes. And we have also on Zoom testifying virtually, Lisa Beatman.
Yes, hello, everyone. Thank you for holding this hearing and inviting us.
Thank you for joining. Okay, we're going to continue with the Q&A. Now I'd like to give the mic to Councilor President Ruti Louis-Jean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks everyone. Thank you, Chief Malo, for your testimony. Nina, thank you for being here. Lisa Beatman, it's been a double feature, your second day in a row in front of the council, so thank you for being with us again. I have a question, but I just want to pick off sort of where Councilor Orell was in Chief Malo. This question has come to me too, like what civic group can I be involved in? And I will say that as a councilor, there is a desire to be able to give a resident a direct answer, rather than saying, let me connect you with someone else so that they can give you an answer. Because I will just, and maybe it's something that my colleagues share, maybe it's just a me thing, I want to make sure that the constituent is getting the answer. Rather than passing them, sometimes constituents feel like we're playing a game of hot potato. Even if for some reason there's an efficiency argument that the liaison is the best to be able to give them the answer, it'd be good to have a database or to have something just like more clearly be like, this is where you can find the information, something that's more tangible rather than saying, talk to this person. I understand the value, but there's like a wanting to be a problem solver, wanting to give someone the answer. I think that I often feel, and I think maybe it's just in my work in direct services, wanting to help people get to an answer rather than sending them to someone else to give them an answer. And I think all of our liaisons are thebomb.com. I think they're amazing. And I think I've never done that. I've never passed someone along. We've tried to find the answer, or we've given them a list of like, this is what you do. And so just putting that out for food for thought. And maybe that is just the answer. It's not like the politics of the answer. It's just like how I think operationally I like to answer constituent questions. And I think that might be true. That might be shared by some of my colleagues. I won't speak for them. I have a question in terms of like when a civic association is starting. Like, for example, there's a Cummins Highway Neighborhood Association. What supports do we provide to a new group that is trying to pull together neighbors and become a civic association? Like, what is the assistance that we can provide?
So definitely. So to your first point, I do think if there's definitely an appetite to do that, I think we could figure out what that looks like. I think to the second piece, to the empower kind of piece, to the three words I mentioned earlier, it is important that anyone has agency to create any space they want. We've seen, civics create after a project in their neighborhood, after a specific incident in their neighborhood, and we don't want it to, like, if you want to start a civic association, you can start one. One of the things that we do is at least first connect them with their neighborhood association, with their neighborhood liaison, and help them navigate through any, recent projects that happen in your neighborhood, just kind of top lines on how like ISD or ZBA works, given the fact that that's a lot of kind of usually what they, start because over, or with streets or the Pacific Streets Project, something like that. So we're able to kind of help them mainly with resources. To that point, there is just a difference between civic associations and city neighborhood councils, and we do we have connected a South End group to the West Property Neighborhood Council. So if we make the connection of this is kind of how this council has worked, or the JPNC council or something like that. So, for example, they have bylaws, they vote like this, and we're able to kind of make that connection so communities can connect with each other. But that's kind of the top lines of usually what we do, helping navigate city resources and connecting people the difference, and understanding the difference between a neighborhood council and a civic association. And yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chair, do I have time for it?
Yes, you do.
Thank you for being with us, Nina and Lisa. I was wondering, I'd love to hear from you as civic leaders, what you're looking for from the city and how the city can be more helpful to the work that you do that really helps us to figure out how we lead the city. So what do you want to see from the city?
Thank you. So I just want to share some of our experiences working with in the community. And so I just want to say that about 2 years ago, Councilor Rurel, he advocated for technical assistance for Civic Neighborhood Association. And as a chairperson for the Woodrow Avenue Neighborhood Association, I took advantage of that opportunity. And we launched our website last summer to 2023. Having a technical assistant has allowed us to connect with more people in the community and abroad. And it has also helped us increase the attendance with regards to, sharing, having an additional platform to share our accomplishments or determination and to make our community much stronger and safer, and plans for future goals. Miss Christina Glover, she was the former Civic Association technical assistant of Councilor Varel. She has been a great asset as she has built the website and provided training for management as well. Like her passion, patience, and encouragement has made a significant difference for our community civic group. And we are forever grateful to her, as well as the Councilor Varel and his team. That said, approving this bill for technical assistance will provide additional opportunities for civic leaders to connect with people in surrounding community. It will give a voice to the unheard. It will enhance community engagement and outreach. And it will help create a neighborhood website for all associations to use with community resources. I'll move forward in saying that communities, civic groups that foster the use of city services, it helps other neighborhoods. Therefore, we need more workshops and classes to learn how to better advocate for our community. As an example, like grant writing, learn how to use AI and other technology assistant. Pardon me, I'm a little nervous.
You're doing great.
And to advocate for our community as a whole, and also inform us how to work with state and local officials, and to advocate for us and what are their rules. Being able to provide technical support and teaching help to legitimize the value and power that residents have in the city of Boston. And on behalf of the Woodrow Avenue Neighborhood Association and sister association in surrounding communities, we hope that you will support this bill and continue to support Community Civic Association.
Thank you, Nina. And we were just marveling at the website. We think it looks really great. So kudos. Yeah.
Cheers.
I don't know if Lisa wanted to add anything.
Lisa, I don't know if you wanted to add anything, or in terms of how you're looking to this.
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to echo the last statement. But first, let me introduce myself. Lisa Beatman, co-leader of the Mount Hope Canterbury Neighborhood Association. We are located in Eastern Rosendale. We coined the term Eastern Rosendale because we are on the other side of literally the tracks between Hyde Park Avenue and the Mattapan and Hyde Park borders. And so we are demographically closer to Mattapan than, sizzling Rosendale Square area. And so I'm not sure what to say at this point. I definitely want to echo the need to support this bill because our neighborhoods manifested by these neighborhood associations, some of us do need, are more under-resourced than some other neighborhoods and therefore need more assistance. I have some other things to say, but I don't know what sort of the rest of this hearing, how this will play out, so I don't know if this is the time for me to say them.
We will continue with the Q&A, and perhaps one of the questions can lead you to those responses.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Lisa. At this time, I want to call on Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Nina, for joining us. And kind of what Lisa had just said, I went back to read, this is a hearing really focusing on the technical assistance, knowing that we're specifically talking about that, but of course this conversation brings up all the other important things that we care about when it comes to civic associations and neighborhood associations. And related to what Councilor President Louis-Jean mentioned, also as an at-large city council, right, we have all the neighborhoods, so all, districts. And one of the first things I did when I got into office and for months had maps and chart papers and trying to make sure we had listed all of the neighborhood associations and understanding the difference between an organization and an association and a council, and when they met, what day of the month they met. Also mapping out, which I think is important for the civic and neighborhood associations also, but for us, because a lot of times when people call with neighborhood community questions, it's not just your neighborhood group you want to connect them with, but it's mapping out, which I know ONS does have, the list of all the community centers and the senior centers with BCYF and the police and fire, the public schools in the different neighborhoods, the main streets in all the different neighborhoods, to get a real feel of what resources are in each neighborhood, and does the different civic associations, work along with them, or, are they connected to them? So I think it's important, though, that I have an understanding also, so through the chair to the makers, just making sure, the outcome for this is to see if the city can fund to make sure that there's training and that we pay for, websites, like you mentioned, if it's GoDaddy or a Constant Contact or something. Is that the hope coming out of here, that if needed, or would it be something that, because there's hundreds and hundreds, right?
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them, right? I know when the District 3 counselor had told me, there's 36 alone in D3, so when you have 9 districts, it's, there's a lot citywide, but if that's okay to ask Chair through the maker, what our hope is coming out of here to support, and what support we're hoping to give, because as we know, some don't need it yet, some already have that assistance, so would we then reimburse them? Because if it's something we're giving to others, what your thoughts were?
Councilor Burrell?
Yeah, so my thoughts are, one, just to have the conversation, just to hear what we've all been hearing, not just from my perspective as a District 4 city councilor, hearing from all the other councilors just in this room, every civic is not the same, every group is not the same. Some groups meet once a month, some groups meet once a year. Everything is different.
Yep.
Styles are different. Who the volunteers and what they bring to the table are all different. So just kind of finding out through this conversation on what is needed, where's this alignment with the administration, and how we can proceed from there. So nothing, right? I just think we just need to have the conversation how we could be more supportive, whether it's trainings that are happening on a more consistent basis. One thing that I heard when Ms. Nina was talking, I remember over in Woodrow Ave, they don't have developments, right? And now they're dealing with their first development in that area. And they're also a new civic, and how much information, like who taught them about Article 80? Who taught them about the BPDA process? Who taught them about the RFP? So it's a wide range, but just getting that information, hearing that, talking to Chief Malore on where's their alignment and see what could be supported.
Yeah, definitely see that across the city, and also knowing that the neighborhood liaisons get to. I mean, there's some nights in Dorchester, they call it like certain.
3 in a row.
Yeah, 3 in a row one night, but
Yeah.
that the neighborhood liaisons, I think, would be a good person, point person to check, like, you go to these civics and neighborhood meetings, what do you see individuals need? And Mike, you mentioned, I know Columbia Savin Hill with all of the development along Dot Ave, years ago, they have spin-offs, so they have their monthly meeting, but they knew there was so much development, so they have separate development meetings. They also have a separate safety meeting. It's under the umbrella, but I think others do the same, knowing that when a big project is coming, or if they just live in a neighborhood where there's always projects that would take up too much of the agenda. Also, the community service offices attend these too, so I think them being part of the conversation, because they would have a good sense of which groups may need more support, and what, because oftentimes, you don't know what you don't know, and if your group is doing well and you just don't realize that, hey, over there they're doing it differently, or did you know you could be more effective? So I think that's where we would, step in also in getting that information from the neighborhood liaisons or the CSOs who attend these meetings, like, to be able to share, like, what resources, if there are any, that the city can offer to those who may need more. But thank you, Chair. And always, thank you again to the sponsor, because the conversation is always important to find out what people need and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Durkin.
Thank you so much, Chair. This has really been an enlightening conversation, and I'm very aware representing 5 neighborhoods and having six civic organizations is a blessing, because Councilor Flynn, I think in like 5 of his blocks probably has like 10 organizations. So it's a totally different world. I had worked done a lot of work in the South End prior to becoming a counselor, so I know what it means when there's a mayor of every single block, and so I really appreciate my civic orgs, WECA, West End Civic Association, Beacon Hill Civic Association, Neighborhood Association of the Back Bay, Fenway Civic Association, and Audubon Circle Neighborhood Association. But I will say we also in my district have like a thriving business associations that exist overlapping on top of these. Just wanted to add that layer to this conversation, because I think, Brianna will tell you, because she's been in all of these meetings and she knows how much all of these issues overlap. A lot of our business associations also don't have the resources they need, partly because if you're running a small business, you are essentially, all of your time is used to, so a lot of these are all of your time is used to do your work for your small business. And then on top of that, you're being asked, like, what are we doing for security on the street? What are we doing? And there's always sort of another thing on top of it. So a lot of our business association are sort of like loosely put together, because the volunteers that they have are essentially people who work 24/7 to think about how to do everything for their business. So just wanted to give a shout out as well to the business associations who work in collaboration with the civic organizations on a lot of issues. And oftentimes, I think our civic orgs do such a great job at bringing everyone to the table, but trying to find that balance of trying to bring every single stakeholder to the table. And I just want to bring up too, in my district, there is a population of folks who move in between civic orgs like all of the time. I think with students who move to neighborhoods and a lot of young people who are really struggling to afford to live here, maintaining civic, maintaining like lasting associations in a neighborhood requires people to continue to live in that neighborhood. So I think a lot of our neighborhood associations skew towards homeowners, which I think is incredibly important that we have that voice. But I think it's also really important that that we, as a city, encourage participation. So I really loved Council President Ruth Louisian's question about sort of how are we tracking like what civic orgs exist, because when people move to a neighborhood, often it's, you know, we're like, okay, can the real estate agent provide a voter reg form, but can they also provide the organization of the civic organization, and can they also do, so there are all these things that we would love to be able to add to the conversation, or if you're a small business owner, you know, here's your business association. So there's a lot the city could be doing, and I really thank you so much, Chief Mallour, for all you do to get people connected. So the question for me of what civic org you live in, because I only have 6, it's pretty easy, but it's not for a lot of my colleagues. So, so that question just shows the diversity of the districts that are represented here and the folks that are involved. So Chief Mallour, wanted to ask you a question about civic, what civic orgs mean to the Office of Office of Neighborhood Services, and how can we support your work? Obviously, we try to have a member of our team at every civic organization because that's possible, but if you're at large or if you have a lot of civic orgs in your district, that's not always possible. So how can we work together with the Office of Neighborhood Services to make sure that throughout the city, we're sort of building a coalition of support for neighborhood associations?
Well, first, Councilor Durkin, thank you for your comments and questions, because that had my brain going about the new market squares, the Back Bay associations, that they obviously represent business districts, but engage with residents so often, or engage with residents so often. It also made me think some of the differences of organizations. Some pay dues, some don't, and able to build their kind of war chest of money for support. So understanding that discrepancy does exist out in the world. But one of the things that I think would be great, because I think the goal of these conversations is to make sure our residents just feel supported. One of the things that liaisons do is have our field Fridays, or we have engagement on Fridays to make sure we're meeting residents where they are. It's not always civic heads, but it's residents that live in the neighborhood. I think it's also an opportunity to partner with different council offices to make sure that we're engaging with residents cross-departmentally. I think it's also important, because even from one of the recent ones I've been at, someone asked, what's the difference between Caroline, who's our JP liaison, and Councilor Weber, and explaining that that difference and how do we work together is something that would be great for the residents to understand what resources they have at their disposal. So I think partnerships on Field Fridays, specifically with civics, I think any follow-up. I know Councilor Anderson is working on the St. Paul follow-up. So for example, there's definitely appetite to make sure we're just collaboratively working with civics. And I look forward to having the further conversation on, I think as Councilor Worrell was saying this, who's teaching them how to do, understanding Article 80, understanding all these things. It made me think of how we train our liaisons. They need to know all this information, and that training could be copy and pasted over to civics. And I think that's something that we could definitely look more further into. Yeah.
I'm sorry, one more question. In terms of the recommendations that civic orgs provide to liaisons, I just wanted to ask a little more about, I think we're talking a lot about skilling folks up, right, to meet the challenge of the day with sort of skilling civic orgs up so when they have a development in their district. I think a lot of our civic orgs, I often, when I hear of a civic org having a problem, want to introduce them to another civic org, because a lot of times it's all, like in Beacon Hill, for instance, we don't have a lot of development. So I was facilitating an introduction between a Fenway leader and someone in Beacon Hill because we have a proposal that to redevelop the CVS that is super important on Cambridge Street at the corner of Charles and Cambridge. And a lot of our civic leaders can also be part of training other civic leaders. So I really appreciated the Civic Summit, but I was actually expecting it to be a little more, some of the civic leaders in my district who know so much about so much. So it's like, I almost wish there was like 4 parts to it of like, if you care about development, like meet with Martin Roeder from NAB. If you like essentially like the people who know a lot about those specific things. So sorry to go on a little bit, but was just curious sort of like your interactions with sort of making those core connections between civic orgs even within the city.
No, definitely. That was the foundation of like the Civic Summit. So make sure neighbors were speaking to each other directly. And as I mentioned, we have historically connected different civics that want to understand what is a neighborhood council that has been established since Benino era. Like, what does that look like and why was it established? So we definitely do that. The hardest part of my job is like trying to pick what civic leader to speak at any given event, because there's so many talented leaders across the city that deeply understand development, deeply understand like engineering and traffic engineering. It's like the hardest part of my job, but I do think we could figure out how to like incorporate more of the expertise we see across the city with our civic leaders into the Civic Summit. I see Tom over there; he knows everything.
Thank you so much. Sorry, thank you.
Seriously, he knows everything. Yeah. Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I know you guys know, because I talk about this often, I've done a lot of work on civic associations and all the stuff, right? Organizing my district. I think my district has the most neighborhood groups, councils, civic associations. Yeah, we actually do. Oh,
I heard it was Worrell.
It is definitely me.
How many do you have? Never mind.
45.
I have more.
How many do you have?
75, including neighborhood groups. Anyway.
I'm talking about best neighborhood group.
Oh, so go on our website. Anyways. For those of you watching, please visit www.bostondistrict7.com. This took at least 3 universities' partnership between BU, Harvard, and Northeastern for us to do a full inventory of the district, for us to do the map of the civic association that you guys want, for us to do a full study in terms of spatial mapping, asset mapping, understanding exactly what the assets are so we can compare that to deficits. For us to actually be able to create a platform where it's a portal, an online portal, so that everything lives in one platform. A streamlined incubator where everybody knows where to go to talk about development if you couldn't reach DBPDA or if there was an issue. A place where you can actually add stuff to calendar, consolidate the district's calendar. But beyond that, in terms of technical assistance, we had to pull resources from our local schools. But then there's always opportunity, room for more, because sometimes you may need folks to piece together like monies for events or organizing or trainings. And in terms of like specific understanding like relevant regulations and policies or accessing data, this is training that I think can come from the city. And then, of course, we have an app, right? And this, like the app specifically, sorry, I'm looking at my notes, for that continuous like feedback loop, right? You want people to directly connect with you. So imagine this umbrella. There's District 7, and there's the city and there's District 7, and then there's the councilor, right, in partnership. And then there, under the district, you have civic associations, right? Councils, civic associations, neighborhood groups. And if you create, hopefully it's a model for other districts. If you create one council, one coalition for all of your civic associations, what we do, for those who don't know, is that I don't have to go to every, bounce around to civic associations or groups. I go to one meeting a week. And there, the agenda includes
them giving me the update from their civic associations and me giving them things to bring back to their civic associations. When they want me to present on things such as, and then we have one action plan, which includes like the different domains or pain points of District 7. And the relevance there is that that's where the work is. That's where the policy work, the programmatic work, the budget priority conversation is taking place. And then so we have subcommittees to that, and representative from each civic association or neighborhood groups coming in and saying, from our civic association, we voted no on this or we voted yes on this. So I only have to compile from one meeting all of that information. And so it should live digitally as well, where you have that online platform.
And you should be able to also provide them with the technical assistance beyond just, you know, websites and organizing or portals or shared drives, but also language capacity or disability. Some folks need, you know, different types of like technical accommodations. And I think that when you do that, as you're speaking, like, who do I choose to recognize or who do I choose to speak at something? But that's so important, right? That's why you said, like, you're right, like creating a beautiful environment, therefore, like viscerally, it has an impact and people act differently. Same with recognition, right, as we know it. So it's being able to have that web, but then you can tap and you can keep track of who have we acknowledged, who have we not acknowledged. And your office, working with your office, I have to say, Chief Malloy, I know I'm always giving you glory. People are gonna, yes, you are my princess. But I really appreciate that you guys have been collaborative and working with us to be able to say, look, we've done a comparative analysis of 311 information. We've been able to use that information to understand exactly the response and the issues. And we've been talking about these conversations, but then bringing it back. So one resource can be schools, and two, there's definitely opportunity here for funding because there's always opportunities for us to hire consultants. For example, the next phase of the revitalization Roxbury plan, it's going to go into understanding how to create ecosystems in pockets of Roxbury. What does Roxbury need in a walkable way? I want to go to the gym, to the juice bar, do my dry cleaning, and be able to go to a restaurant at night within 15 minutes. How do you do that? And so this level of planning, I think it's your office, your leadership, connected with the new planning department, and coming together and saying, we had concerns about community engagement, but if we streamline it in a digital way, if we integrate people civically, it means that we are connecting all three, and so that we are planning ahead of time in a very analytical sense so that we can implement metrics, incubators, platforms, and so forth. But then we also have the resources to support with sustainability moving forward. And I think that those resources can come from outside of the city, money-wise, and obviously like services. I do want your feedback both on this and how we can work together, continue to work together moving forward.
No, thank you, and thank you for mentioning particularly the partnership with 311. 311 has been, having, continuous conversation with your office to make sure, when there's any work that we can collaborate on that happens. So thank you for your leadership there. So I definitely, I was writing notes as you were talking because I wanted to remember. So one of the things that you mentioned was kind of like a centralized advisory group, and I think that is a very effective mechanism. But also one of the discrepancies, I would love to hear your thoughts. But one of the things that I feel is then I lose the meat and potatoes of attending the smaller ones, and I feel that's usually where you get a lot of the understanding why someone really is opposed to something or supportive of something, or if there was a 9-3 vote, or what do those three people think, or something like that. So I think it's definitely both and of looking what it your advisory council and having the smaller groups lead up and being able to be present and effective at both of those. So that's something that
I should say that that weekly meeting is for leadership.
Oh, okay.
And my liaisons are going to
the
3-4 meetings a week.
I see. Okay. Okay, that's helpful to know. Thank you for clarifying. I also think, as I mentioned, the goal of the Civic Summit was to make sure that we were providing trainings and tools to our civic leaders. And a lot of those, as you mentioned, it doesn't necessarily have to be like the city. We use, obviously, external people to do certain trainings or to, uplift their expertise, and even partnering with, we know we have an overwhelming amount of brilliant institutions and agencies within the city. I'm sure they have to donate their time in some way, so maybe that can be a part of the conversation as well. And then I also wrote, I wrote elaborate on the schools piece you mentioned, and the other piece is, as you were talking about the umbrella, the piece that kind of stuck out to me was, I'm really excited about figuring out technical support for civic associations. I just want us to all what are we defining as a civic association, being clear on what that looks like. But I definitely think that there's an appetite to continue to do that support.
I also think, final, please, thank you. I also think that where that lives is not just, we created a district website and database, but where that lives is the council's website, page, not the councilor's campaign website, the councilor's page on the City of Boston's website. When you click on a councilor's, for example, here's my address, who's my councilor, you click on their picture and you go, it's just your dumb biography. There's nothing else and there's nothing to do. Here, email, that's it. And people are feeling like, okay, that's what I got. So why not? And I filed the the ordinance last year, and there was support, and then we lost votes. But the idea is that I should be, as a constituent, I should be able to just go click, 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 and go take me straight. Here's the map. Here's the civic association you belong by address. Here is how your councilor has been voting. Here are their priorities. Here are their plans. Here are some things that you want. And we do have access, but it's been a bit arduous to connect with IT to do it, to be able to actually create that. And we don't have the capacity here, so I think we need a technical assistant to Ethan of some sort to be able to actually upkeep that for us. Because I think Do It is, has enough on their plate. But it should live on our page or also on our page, so that it's all streamlined, it's all there, one place, and I don't have to go anywhere else. Miss
Nina?
Yes.
If you don't have a comment, I don't know if you want to reply, but up to you. She wants to pass.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I also just want to recognize that we also been joined by Bill McDonald, who's on Zoom as well. He was one of the panelists that signed up, so just want to recognize him on here. But continue with our Q&A. I just want to bring to the mic Councilor Coletta.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you both so much, and Lisa, I can't see her name, Lisa, on there for providing your perspective. And I want to shout out Victor Brogna of NURA from the North End, who is here. So thank you so much, Victor, for everything you do. And just know that we also reached out to a bunch of different civic associations in my district. We have had some provide written testimony, so hoping that that would get on the record. And I do want to start, though, with starting at a baseline for the technical assistance. So somebody had mentioned earlier that technical assistance is very much centered around technology, but it could be an all-encapsulating term for consulting services. So anything that has to do, and I actually looked this up, I'm like, what is technical assistance? Anything that refers to the transfer of knowledge, skills, and resources that are necessary for individuals or organizations to achieve their goals. So that is what I was, that's what I was thinking when it comes to this conversation. In addition to the technology that is necessary to exist and thrive in this hybrid world. But I do think that I want to bring it back a little bit to how, civic associations have always been powerful. They've always been collective voices coming together around various causes, but it really started under Mayor Walsh and Mayor Menino had his neighborhood councils, the Charlestown Neighborhood Council is a vestige of this, but Mayor Walsh centered development conversations in these community associations and really propped them up to provide feedback, which then the neighborhood liaison would take and go to the ZBA and talk about what the neighborhood was worried about, concerned about, if they supported it or if they opposed it. And so over time, there's been this emphasis on these civic associations to be development and zoning experts. And so that's where a lot of this has snowballed into, and it's a great thing because they are centers of power in our communities. I would think that there needs to be a little bit more outreach to younger folks. And every single any situation or event that I'm in, I'm asking, especially college-age kids, young kids, please go to your civic association. We need you there. We need your voice. But I say all of this because the city of Boston really played a role in emphasizing civic associations and their voice in the development process in particular. And because of that, I feel like it is the city's responsibility to also make sure that they are set up for success. And that's not anything on this administration. I mean, definitely the former administration had something to do with this. But I do think that we should be providing some sort of grants or funding to them. And I know that it's going to have to be a budget line item. We're going to have to talk through that, what that would mean, if that's sustainable. But at least for things like cameras or stands for these cameras. The hearing equipment for translation services. The Office of Language Access tries their best to be everywhere all at once, but they are so limited, and that's why I pushed through the budget last year to get them to have more headsets, but there's only so many headsets to go around. Right. So, for example, in the Eagle Hill neighborhood of East Boston, they desperately need headsets every single time. So can they just go and buy their own? That costs thousands of dollars. Could they use a grant to try to get that? Babysitting, I talked about earlier. I am supportive of having a catch-all City of Boston website that shows you what your civic association is. And we've done this before through the pandemic. There was a huge website through the Office of Small Business that showed where the businesses were open, which restaurants were doing delivery, which were doing takeout. And so we've been able to do this before. I think we've had to contract out to get it done, but we've demonstrated that it can happen. And so I am supportive of having that and be sponsored by the City of Boston. And then also giving them some money for outreach, because I have talked about this before, and all of my civic associations do incredible work. It is very homogenous. There's a set group of demographics that go to our civic associations, and it's not reflective of the broader community. And so I really think it's incumbent upon all of us to create inclusive spaces because they have so much power and voice, and especially our development conversations. And they provide a different perspective, potentially, that I'm always trying to hear and figure out so that I can make the best decision and have a net positive for my community. So I don't really have any questions. Those are just my thoughts and my suggestions, but I do want to see some line item in your department, in your cabinet, that is adequately supporting community groups and civic associations to do this work, and then they choose however they want to spend it. So those are my thoughts. Thank you, Chair.
Right on the money. 5 minutes. Thank you. I have sort of like a question/recommendation, just hearing a lot of what my colleagues are saying. I would love to see a landing page. If it's bostoncivics.com or whatever it is, I do see it living, like I just did a quick Google search, like under civic organizing or under the Office of Neighborhood Services page, where we could take advantage that some neighborhood associations already have a website, and we can potentially like link their websites onto that website, and then obviously help those neighborhood associations and civic groups that don't already have a website create one as well, so that everyone is uniformed. I think that would be a great project for the city, both the city council and the administration, because when we speak about community engagement and how we want to hear people's voices, that's where we start. Just being an ONS for a couple of years, I realized that a civic organization or a neighborhood association is what gets the ball rolling in a community. If it's residents asking for a new speed hump, if it's residents pro or against the project, if it's them trying to organize a block party, that creates community. And if we're able to support them in giving them those cameras and giving them hearing aids or helping them create that website, I think that would actually make our job easier as well as city councilors and as folks that work for the administration. And I think it would put Boston on a pedestal in comparison to the rest of the country, because it just shows that, I believe we are already the state with the most nonprofits in the country. We are also known to be very active civically. So this would only be a plus to that resume that we already have. So definitely willing to explore that conversation with you. If it's a budget line item, if it's a special project that your cabinet takes on and how we can support, or vice versa. Happy to explore that conversation.
Definitely, thank you, Chair. I definitely think there is an appetite and a roadmap to do this. I look forward to collaboration. I also definitely wanted to comment on Councilor Coletta's point, because thank you for underscoring the shared definition of technical assistance, but also civic association. It's important to understand that, there's a goal here to diversify and include a lot of voices in civic associations. One way that we do it is that development's only a portion of what is talked about there. We know there's schools should be talked a lot about more in civic associations, or our business corridors, or our resiliency and climate justice plans. And the more we diversify the topics that's talked about within the space, and not just about development or a streets project, the more we'll have different people interested in participating civically. So that is one of the reasons why there is another arm of ONS that is focused on doing abutters meetings, because we really want the liaisons to partner with civics and neighborhood leaders on other topics besides development that impacts their daily lives. Although it's still within the cabinet, still within the department, there's an appetite to make sure people are engaged on early childhood education announcements and things that's coming out of the city, or there's an appetite to talk about tax classifications and other things that are not just about, not just about development. So there's just an opportunity to diversify what we talk about, and as you mentioned, the birth of abutters meetings did cause some impact on the birth of a lot of civics. So there's definitely appetite to diversify what is talked about in them.
Thank you, Chief. I want to open up to a second round of questions. I know Councilor Worrell has a question.
Yeah, kind of dovetailing on Councilor Coletta's line of questioning. You guys probably see more. You guys definitely go to more meetings than any of us go to when it comes to civics. Have you guys came up based on? Because we've heard there's so many different styles, right, of meetings. Not every civic is the same. But is there a common best practice theme that you guys, as a department who goes to every civic association meeting, can put together, kind of say, at least create these foundational items within your civic group. Whether it's making sure you're covering topics from, like you said, development to education to here are some of the core items that every group should be talking about. Block parties, how to build community. Is there any core best practices or foundational building blocks that as the chief of civic organizing and ONS that you guys are looking to, standardize or communicate out?
So we do have a standard template that we have liaisons present in each meeting, and it's mainly about different things that are impacting their neighborhood, school announcements or coffee hours coming up or something like that. I do think we could lean more into figuring out what are the key principles or philosophies we could just implement across the board for each civic. So I look forward to kind of digging deeper on that. But,
awesome.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to language access, because one of the things I've heard when I go around to different communities or public housing sites, not even in my office can I communicate out in the wide, the different variety of languages that are within my district. So I could just imagine, what a civic can communicate out in terms of translating or turning over, some material saying like this development meeting is happening today. What's the process if Miss Nina wanted to get information out in Haitian Creole, Cape Verdean Creole, Spanish? Like what would she need to do in order to turn that around?
So the city really only translates if it's a city, like a city event. There's no formal resources for communities to like tap into. Right. As Councilor Coletta said, I remember, having this conversation with Eagle Hill and connecting them with like external resources that they would obviously have to pay for, but there's no like formal city resource right now.
Yeah, and I think that for me, just because we're relying on them for development, right? Like we're sending the developers to them to go through their process, but then they're not able to engage the whole community because of that language barrier in there. Maybe they don't have the services to translate, then we're missing out on actually including the whole community in that conversation. So that's definitely something that, if we can explore how to make, those services, more accessible to the civic groups, just because we're sending so many conversations their way.
Definitely, we can look into that. Did you want to say something?
Yes, I agree. That would be very helpful. Because there's our communities are very diverse,
right?
And there are people that we want to bring in to invite to the association. But if they don't speak the language, then that will create a barrier. And we want to be inclusive.
Right. And I know Lisa and David's online. Well, Bill's on. Bill, sorry. Lisa and Bill are online. Just wanted to hear from you two on what are your thoughts around this conversation, and how do you guys see the city being more supportive of all the work that you do in the neighborhood? Lisa? Yep.
Sure. I was going to say if Bill wanted to go first, to go for it.
The floor is yours, Lisa.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for dialing it back and asking for more general feedback. I have some notes that I'm going to read. Hold on. Okay, and yeah, so here's the video so you can see who I am. Let's see. Okay, so again, thank you for holding this hearing. I want to give a shout out in particular to our District 4 City Councilor Worrell. So I'm glad that Councilor Coletta mentioned that technical assistance should not be limited to newer technologies, and that a line item stipend is needed for other kinds of assistance that each neighborhood association could determine how to use. And I will give a couple examples later on. So Mount Hope Canterbury Neighborhood Association is over 65 years old. It was organized by immigrants, some of whom were, due to redlining, unable to build a home in some other neighborhoods that they were interested in. Again, we are comprised of pocket neighborhoods all along the American Legion corridor. Our core pocket neighborhood that I live in is it's 75% BIPOC, it's working class, low to moderate income, many seniors, many residents with jobs and family obligations that make it very challenging to have time and attention to get civically involved. I should mention students as well. Okay, so essential non-replicable strength of neighborhood associations is bringing together individuals who share common, I'll call them geographic issues and concerns. Neighborhood associations' magic and science is the ability to transform limited and isolated individual voices into unified, stronger, and more enduring ones. This is challenging enough in more homogeneous neighborhoods and even more challenging in a heterogeneous and spread out membership like ours, Mount Hope Canterbury. We are not just a bunch of random individual residents living along the misnamed American Legion and Cummings quote unquote highways. And I say that with emphasis because that is how we have been treated, and that is how developers treat us. At-large city councilor participation is particularly needed for borderland neighborhoods like Mount Hope. Understand focus on the main streets areas of their district. In our case, official neighborhood borders literally run down the center lines of the large roads that define our sub-neighborhood. And so that means that rather than having two counselors working on some important things, sometimes we really don't have any. So back to the technical assistance. Let's not forget that printers are actually a technology, and they were a brand new one at one time. So in our neighborhood, door-to-door distribution of flyers or print mailings, like by US mail, bring out significantly more neighbors in tandem with electronic mailings. Over the years, I have had to personally fund close to $1,000 or more in paper, toner, occasionally ordering flyers from Staples to print notices and flyers for both regular meetings and also special events, including the annual Love Your Block neighborhood cleanup, block parties, etc. And our neighborhood actually was in on the very first annual Boston Shines neighborhood cleanup, and we have not ceased since. We're very proud of that. Okay, and then technical assistance to civic groups includes something like our members need for you guys to include enabling the most optimal public access at all public community meetings and hearings. Currently, many, including this one, do not. Please use the functions that enable chat and Q&A, that enable all meeting participants to speak directly, to see who else is in the meeting, and to see video of all participants opting to show their video profile. Let's see. So actually, those are just the notes that I have. I didn't have time to do more because, as Councilor Louis-Jean pointed out, this is maybe the sixth meeting or hearing this week that I've attended. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're in high demand, Lisa. David? Bill? Bill, I don't know why I keep on saying David.
Bill.
Sorry, Bill. I don't know why I keep on saying
Quite all right. Well, yeah, I'd like to second everything that Lisa just said and thank the counselors and for Chief Malore for putting this together. I think it's a really important issue. I think there are certain conversations that can be had about, conflicts of interest with the city funding these associations directly. But I think there is a universal sort of issue of equity with all civics getting sort of the same treatment with regard to technology. We've been trying. I'm actually got a civic association meeting this evening where I'm literally just doing it on my iPhone. And the audio is terrible, the video is terrible. So we've been running into these challenges. I have a lot of requests from constituents in our neighborhood who, knee replacement, hip replacement. We have mobility issues. We can't get there. We've, got family. We have no daycare. Can't make it to these meetings. And, our intention is not only to be bringing information from, constituents up to the city, but also, making sure that city things are being distributed to them in the most efficient way possible. So, yeah, all for any audio and video help that can be provided. And I think one more thing that maybe gets overlooked is the importance of being able to host these video sessions on like a centralized platform would really help with institutional knowledge throughout the civic associations. A lot of times people will leave an organization and it kind of has to start back up from square one, which is, a bit what I had taken over in, I think, 2021 when I started as president of the Melville Park Association.
Thank you, Bill. Following up with the Q&A, I just want to call up Councilor Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let's see. I guess in terms of back to technical assistance or specific types that civic associations most need, specifically for their, there's different levels. I see it for operational capacity, and then there's also building capacity, right? So trainings and all these other ways that we can increase capacity within the civic associations or groups, work or structure, improve community engagement, facilitate effective communication with residents. And I think that on all of those levels, we need to think about the different technical assistance that are necessary, and how and whether or not you need more staff to actually execute. Is it a couple of people that are coming in specifically to provide technical assistance or training or workshops within the city, so that it's not actually putting out grants? I do think that there are other ways of connecting civic associations with philanthropic opportunities, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of after your conversations and whatever meetings you need to have. And then if a program is created, then in what ways can the city ensure that funding technical assistance provided to civic associations are equitable? So I think that's a concern too, because then you have civic associations that need a lot, and then some that need little, and some that need none. Everybody will say they need some, but then, how can we implement, or execute in a way that it's equitable, and how can we communicate that so people are not feeling shorthanded? And then I guess how will we measure the effectiveness, right? Is this something that works or doesn't work? And so thinking ahead of time in terms of our metrics and ways of measuring this initiative. And then how will the city encourage collaboration and knowledge sharing among civic associations, right? So learning from each other. We talked a lot about website, and the chair mentioned learning. Oh, if you've done a website, can we share? Can we do links? Can we do all of that? But it's more than that, right? It's actual practices based on or best practices, where they say, well, when Article 80 came out, this is what we did, and the best way maybe it's to get a small subcommittee and then connect with the city, and then a listening session, and then back to it, and then we post on our website, and then we did, I don't know, focus group, whatever. But those level of best practices are documented somewhere. And so I think it would behoove the city, but also the community, for us to figure out how we can help the civic associations build on each other. And I think that's one of the perks for the advisory council, that they're coming with their best practices and saying, no, don't do it this way, do it this way instead. That gets you better results. Also, a wealthier, dynamic group of resources. People, as you said, some engineers, some lawyers, some economists, and they're coming together and sharing their expertise. And so I do think there's an opportunity for the city to create positions to do it, but I think it lives in the city, and I think we're providing out. I'm not sure about the grant piece, because that's a lot of management and a lot of figuring out how we are fair and equitable. I guess if you thoughts.
I want to react to that. I definitely think, well, first of all, thank Council for your comments. It definitely is something that I'm processing, and I think this is going to require many conversations, like thinking through the right criteria to be equitable, making sure that people have access, obviously, to whatever we're creating here is top priority for the administration. To the second piece, I think it could look like trainings, as we talked about earlier, an extension of the Civic Summit, and making sure we have capacity support to have like more intensive trainings, and being specific kind of is helpful because, to your point, if we are talking about like the definition of technical assistance is like way too broad on right now. Like, how do we, create a pilot, something specific to see how effective it is, and then work from there? Is something that's just like thinking about. But I definitely think there's an appetite to expand upon the conversation today.
Yes, through the chair, thank you so much, Chief. Through the chair to the makers, do you see a working session where we are breaking this down and or structuring it to support, or in partnership with administration for us to come to a solution?
I'll allow Councilor Worrell to respond.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think that this could be a multi-phase rollout of different technical assistance that we're providing. Maybe the first one is a pilot around just the training, or it could be the training and the website that we're talking about. So absolutely, I'm open to a working session to kind of see, what's phase one. Let's, look at the metrics, evaluate phase one, and then after that, let's keep on moving on to phase 2, 3, 4, so we continue providing support to our civic. So definitely looking forward to continuing that conversation.
I think as also going into that, knowing obviously what to prepare, we can have the right people in the room, whether that means what technical assistance looks like, what website, I am not a website designer, what does that look like to make sure we're having the right expertise. So I think that's definitely something we can follow up on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Councilor Coletta?
Thank you so much, Chair. That just reminded me of what the Small Business Office provides through the CDBG grants. We were literally just talking about this today, but technical assistance for businesses, and it could be anything. It could be website creation, it could be creating a facade, and it really is like an a la carte sort of situation. So just looking to that as an example, we could maybe look to the Office of Small Business to figure out how they make that work, their operations and logistics. But that's all. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Councilor. Do any of my colleagues have any last-minute questions? Okay. Before we continue with our public testimonies, I would like to give the opportunity to Nina and Chief Malore and Lisa and Brian and Bill to give your closing statement.
You have to get his name right. So I just wanted to say thank you to, well, first, thank you to the community members that came to listen and participate in the session. It's really important that, we're centering their voices, and that's the core part of not only my job, but this is why we are here today. So thank you for the counselors for participating, the chair, lead sponsor, and co-chairs as well. I'm looking forward to kind of more, let's get in the weeds on this, because this can go many different ways. And I feel like if we could, cultivate some type of pilot or figure out, what is the broad stream of things that we're seeing, so we could actually, as Councilor Anderson mentioned, understand the effectiveness of it. The more specific we are, the more we'll understand if it's effective or not, and then be able to copy and repeat if it's effective. So I look forward to kind of more intensive conversations. It's really important that you all know that our team is here to support when we're trying to uplift and participate in uplifting our civic associations. I am attending Woodrow Ave tonight, so I will be there loud and proud. And it is important that we show up and that we're, as I mentioned earlier, investing, equipping, and empowering our civic association leaders. So thank you again for having me today.
Thank you, Chief. Nina?
I want to say thank you all for having me today. This is a great experience, my first, and I'm hoping that it's not my last. But with regards to supporting civic association. You all, we play a pivotal role in what you do. And, supporting us is something that we're really looking forward to because, we're always better together.
Thank you. Lisa and Bill?
You got my name right. No, I really just want to say thank you to all the councilors for putting this together, and to, I believe it's Councilor Fernandez. When I heard 75 civic associations in your district, that is, God bless you. It's a lot of work. But yeah, it's a really important issue, and hoping to hear more discussion on it soon. It's going to help us bolster not only attendance, but also to spread the word, I think, for a lot of other issues in our communities that are not just development centered, which, as many of you know, if you want to get attendance at your civic association meeting, just put development on the agenda. You'll have a packed house. But yeah, we're really trying to sort of diversify. Like this evening, we've got librarians coming from Codman Square and Fields Corner to present. Yeah, we're looking forward to having them and hoping to get the most attendance we can. And, we want to let the people that we're inviting into our civic association meetings know that it's more than maybe just the 15 to 30 faces that they see in the room, that there's a community at large there. So, again, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Lisa?
Yes, yeah, I'll just kind of echo what everyone else said. Thank you very much for convening this and for the information, for listening, and for acknowledging the positivity of neighborhood associations. There seems to be kind of a mythology that neighborhood associations have too much power, and in probably 99.9% of the cases, it's actually the opposite. We are not that strong. So really important and great to hear the acknowledgement from all of the city councilors on what neighborhood associations actually are and do for the community, for individual residents. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Yes,
Share one more point with the chief.
you may.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Mr. Chair. So in District 7, I had Harvard transactional law actually support the district to create its own community fund organization, and we've just been approved by the state. Not we, by we I mean, I'm a part of it, but not. And then went to the Boston Foundation and presented what this was. This was a beginning to the organization that was going to receive funds to support civic associations, entrepreneurs, maybe even scholarship funding, maybe even revitalizing spaces and placemaking. And Boston Foundation awarded us a huge grant as a start. And so the state just recently approved the organization, the nonprofit organization. So from that the city could partner with the district and support the D7 Community Fund to get this more philanthropic monies so that they can support the civic associations. It doesn't have to live in the city, and that's what I meant. So congratulations to us, D7, that we have a community fund.
Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, so we have $150,000 for Boston Foundation, but I've been mitigating community benefits from development as well. And they also have, within their org rules, they also can apply for grants, like state fund or federal, it doesn't matter. So the opportunities are endless here.
Right. Definitely. I look forward to talking more and leading more into that. That's new. That's really cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Just want to say thank you to the panelists today for your testimonies, for obviously your expertise, for your work in the community, for your work in the cabinet, for your work in the neighborhood, and for Lisa and Bill. Thank you so much for everything that you do as well. I want to now You can remain in the chamber, but we're going to transition now over to public testimonies. We have a few that are logged on virtually. When your name is called, please come
Thank you
down.
all.
Thank you. Please come down to one of the two podiums and state your name, your neighborhood, and your organization affiliation. Please speak into the microphone, and please keep your comments to 2 minutes. I will call you by order of arrival. Okay. First name I see is Elliot.
Thank you. My name's Elliot Laffer, and I'm from the Back Bay. I'm a longtime officer and director of the Neighborhood Association Back Bay, but I'm speaking as an individual today. I think that the role of community organizations, the role of neighborhood organizations, is substantially that of advocates. And I think we've been very effective as advocates across the city, and in particular in our neighborhood. I think that an advocacy organization has to be careful that it doesn't ever appear to be in the hands of someone because someone hands them money. And that's the concern about a direct payment to a neighborhood association. I think the technical assistance is really good, really important, and you know, you might take a look and say, well, he can say that because he comes from a relatively wealthy neighborhood with a relatively wealthy neighborhood association, but the association wasn't always wealthy. And my first job there was as a treasurer, and I remember when we had $5,000 in the bank, and we had to worry about how to pay our budget. Now that's a long, long time ago, and $5,000 was worth more then. But it's still a challenge if the money comes from the people that you're going to ask and advocate in front of. Because there's always the potential, if we get used to getting money, that someone will say, well, maybe you're not going to get it now. And that's not, I think, an intention that people from the city would have. I don't think it's an intention that anybody would have, but the appearance would be there. So technical assistance is really important. Teaching people how to connect with issues beyond development issues is really important, although the development issues are really hard, and I've spent a lot of time on them. And so the thought processes are really important. I think that the idea of setting up a nonprofit and getting funding from the Boston Foundation is wonderful because that doesn't have that same kind of connection. But I'd be very careful here. I think neighborhood associations have done a lot of great work in this city and for this city, and this is a city of neighborhoods, and we want to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Elliot. I'd like to call up to the mic Martin Roeder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and fellow city councillors. My name is Martin Rutt. I also live in the Back Bay, and I'm currently chair of the Neighbourhood Association of the Back Bay. And of course, I agree with everything that Elliot Laffer has said. I see a significant number of time bombs and landmines in the way in which this whole idea is being presented. I suggest that there are three basic questions that we should be paying attention to guide whatever decisions we take. The first is obviously, what are the values that the Civic Association delivers to the city? And I think, of course, being biased, that they're enormous. I won't go through them all because I only have 2 minutes. I'd like to illustrate also one of the kind of problems that one encounters, the unintended consequences of something which sounds good. Translation services, which we all welcome. So we're frequently faced with a situation, as I am now, in cramming everything as quickly as I can within a 2-minute period. And then somebody says, oh, no, slow down. Translation is going on. So we have to speak more slowly. That's not a good idea. I would like to congratulate the city for one thing. I think this is an unintended consequence that it's done that has really helped civic associations get together more frequently and figure out what they have in common. And that is, of course, the Home Rule petition that is now before the state legislature. Never have I seen such commonality of opinion between neighborhoods with very different circumstances, and it has encouraged us to get together with people literally from across the city and find out what we have in common and develop common solutions. I think there's several things that the city could be doing without necessarily giving money to civic associations. I'll just give you a few examples. One is, you ask the question, why don't more people spend some of their time and effort with civic associations? Because they don't have the time. They're at very different stages of their lives. They may have families to bring up, careers to pursue, elderly parents to look after. And so it's important to make it as easy as possible for them to feel that they have their voices heard. And things like this 2 or 3 minute limit after hours of testimony from city and elected officials doesn't help. And people get exhausted and they give up, literally. I've had that happen to people that I was trying to encourage to come along and contribute. Secondly, put money into services that make it easier for people to find time. For example, increase the amount of funding that you're putting into childcare services, especially in those neighborhoods which, unlike the Back Bay, have far fewer resources to be able to devote to civic associations. Then encourage residents to participate in civic associations by changing the messaging that is coming across. There's a lot of messaging that is coming across that is that neighborhoods are less important compared to centralized planning. So then somebody says, well, why should I bother? Because even if I get to say something, it's not going to have much influence. Consider also, I think training is very important. There's a lot of new technologies that we need to master, and that's of benefit not just to civic associations, but to the economy as a whole. So if you put money into training, not necessarily directed specifically at civic associations, but more broadly, I think you will get good results. I'd finally like to point out that actually civic associations are remarkable, not only because of the fact that most of them are volunteers, and therefore can provide information expertise to the city at low or no cost, much lower than that of the millions of dollars you spend on consultants, but we're actually held to a much higher ethical standard than many other people and organizations. I could mention Supreme Court justices, but that's a pretty low bar. Companies and others are very much limited. We've had to look very carefully at the IRS rules to make sure that we're not doing what I'm doing here now, lobbying in such a way that it could cause us to lose our 501c3 nonprofit status. So I've been very impressed with the integrity of the people that I've dealt with across the city in civic association, and that too is a tremendous asset. So please be careful when you think about, here's the city, what can we do to strengthen civic associations? We will sometimes be your partners, we will always be advocates, sometimes we will find ourselves opposing you. And you want to make sure that when we do that, we are paragons of virtue, of integrity, of objectivity, and of credibility. And some of the things that I've heard during this hearing indicate to me that you may be, inadvertently perhaps, putting that at peril. So I urge you to take this seriously, and I can say certainly that I and my colleagues would be very happy to work with you and sit down and figure out how you can in fact help us. And if that doesn't work, I'll give you an offshore bank account where I'd be happy to receive money that, of course, I will then devote to my civic association. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. This time I want to call on Victor.
Thank you. My name is Victor Branya. I've already been introduced by my city councilor. Thank you, Councilor Coletta. I am Victor Branya. I am a 30-plus year resident of the North End. I have been over the years president, vice president of the North End Waterfront Residents Association. Right now, I'm only the committee chair, Zoning, Licensing, and Construction Committee. So, as the others, I speak, well, as Elliot, I speak only for myself, not for the organization. I think I can keep it into 2 minutes because I support everything that has been said before me. Focusing on NURA, we have not had a chance to discuss the order and the details of the order. But I think one thing that we could use is technical assistance, specifically hybrid meeting assistance like this one. Because, as was pointed out, families with children are unable to attend a lot of our monthly Residents Association meetings. And with a hybrid format, I think that could happen. And that would be very helpful. Otherwise, as far as tasks that could be supported, we don't have an executive director, a paid executive director, or any executive director to whom we can assign tasks. So I think, for the moment at least, the hybrid form of meeting would be very helpful if that could be provided for us. And finally, my concern, which has been expressed here by pretty much everyone in terms of conflict of interest, I certainly emphasize that concern. And it came up to me when I saw the words best practices. And I don't know that our Residents Association would want to be told what practices you should follow. I think that most of our members would say, you, the City Council, we tell you what practices you should follow. You should not be telling us. That may be a little bit extreme, but I think at least I've illustrated that what has been called conflict of interest can be viewed in a slightly different way, which is we do things our way, and we might be uneasy about being told that you must do it this way or we will not get the funds that you've promised us. And my 2 minutes must be up. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Victor. We have some public testimony that have joined us virtually. I know that. I see Dennis Kirkpatrick from Rosenau is on the call.
There, I think we're all set now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for having me. First, I'd like to say thank you to Councilor Worrell and also to Councilor Fernandez Anderson for your efforts to bring people together. 20 years ago, myself and Elliot Laffer participated in the first Civic Summit at the Boston Convention Center. We were one of the breakout groups that lasted for a calendar year after, and we got as far as the Boston Foundation for funding. Unfortunately, they gave us some goals to complete, but by then the dozen of us that started had come down to about 5, and we decided to call it a day. At the time, engagement of neighborhood associations and anything to do with civic groups was not openly welcome, either by the mayoral administration or by the people in the city council at the time. So what I'm hearing today is a major improvement and very much most welcome. I would point out one of the problems I foresee is the outward and downward flow of information that the civic groups need. We've found that every time the mayoral administration changes, which has been several times in the last 10 years, and there's been a couple of turnovers in the city council, there is no legacy list of who the organizations are and who to contact. And we often find ourselves in a situation of having to reintroduce ourselves and request one more time what kind of information would best suit our needs. Unfortunately, that has not necessarily been forthcoming, and sometimes as a matter of individual effort on somebody's staff. And so I think a piece of that is the problem. I find myself in a situation of having to subscribe to multiple city newsletters, and I don't always get the information that I need. I'm attending various commission meetings, which don't always apply to my needs because my part of the city is not engaged. And least but not last, process and procedure. One of our big problems has been getting appropriate information for development and abutters meetings. The Prospect Hill Neighborhood Association, which I'm representing here today, as well as the Rosendale Business Group, has not been able to get information that would have an impact on the business people we represent or the neighborhood that I happen to handle communications for now. I'm not the leader. There's a series of co-chairs, if you will. And so that's been a big problem. There's no central location. Ideally, it would be in the community ONS newsletter, but that has not been forthcoming. I don't know if there's staff dedicated to do that, but we've got people right now visiting various maps, databases, meeting agenda lists, just to try to stay ahead of the curve. And it's becoming a full-time job for some of us. And as we all have noted, it's a volunteer effort, zero paycheck. This is just dedication trying to be of assistance. My social media connections for my neighborhood alone is about a third of what is estimated. We get about 1,000 households. I get about 330. The direct email list we're building now has about 100 of that, which is not too bad. Again, about 10%. We'll take that. And of course, open social media. And we're doing that with the business group as well. Business group, a good 215 local businesses. But it's a challenge just to get the information. I mean, the abutter meetings alone, we fly, the city flyers the neighborhood on behalf of the developer, but those blow away and people don't find out about it. So some kind of an electronic communication that goes out when the flyers go out, or just simply put out the flyers as an attachment would be a major improvement in things. And so again, I would stress the downward flow of information of interest to the civic groups is what we truly need, and then we can take it from there and engage the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. Next on the list, I see Margaret.
Hi, my name is Margaret Farmer, and I'm going to close my office door. I thought I was further down the list. Sorry about that. I live in East Boston, and I am a proud member of the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association. I've been a board member for, with a short break for about 2 years, approximately 15 years now. If anyone knows someone who would like to replace me, I am happy to talk to them. I would like to say, first of all, that I heard some really wonderful and great ideas today, and I would like to second every comment that this is wonderful to hear the City Council both state publicly that they value neighborhood associations and state and brainstorm better ideas that they could work with us. I'd like to second the idea of having an office that we could consult with for technology. We were considered a popular neighborhood association in East Boston before the pandemic, pulling in between 40 and 50 people on average for a neighborhood association meeting. During the pandemic, we went to Zoom and we're able to now pull 60 to 80, sometimes well over 100 people for a meeting. The issue is I have a large population that wants me to go back in person, but then I have a significant number of people who have kids at home, who are commuting home from work, who have other commitments that have trouble getting there in person, who want a hybrid option. That is finding a space that is willing to host us and has the capability to host us is extremely difficult. Having someone who's technologically savvy that we could consult with, that we could figure out a way that's maybe not as involved as we've been able to figure out doing some random Googling would be incredibly helpful. Another thing I'd like to point out is that I've heard some amazing ideas here. They've been incredible, but a lot of them are very big. A lot of them are involve a lot of funding. They involve a lot of coordination among different departments at the city. I'd encourage coming up with some ideas to start small to help us connect with each other. Some of the best things I've learned about how to solve problems and how to do things better at my neighborhood association have happened because I've met someone from another association who says, let me tell you how to solve that problem. And it's worked. I'd love to see ONS or someone else say, we're going to hold a bi-monthly Zoom training. We're going to ask 4 people from different neighborhood associations that there's one thing they do really well. They have 10 minutes to present, 5 minutes of questions. They leave it over for 20 minutes after for us to exchange our contact information so we can work with one another. Help us connect with one another and we can help each other solve our own issues. Boston has people who care and are willing to be active and get out there. I think that the number of people here today is a great example of that. Help us make those connections and we will take advantage of them ourselves. And that can be done for very low cost. I'm sure I will think of something after I finish speaking, but I will thank you very much for this opportunity at this time.
Thank you, Margaret. This time I'd like to call on Ruth Georges from the Cummins Highway Neighborhood Association, which is where I will be tonight.
Hello.
Hey.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you all. And great to definitely hear, Counselor, that you'll be at our meeting. We'll make sure to revise our agenda. I would like to thank all of the city councilors for helping to organize this hearing. There have been a lot of feedback that has been shared and recommendations that I think really align with the items that are important to a majority of the civics in the city. As Councillor Enrique shared, my name is Ruth George. I am one of the co-chairs of Cummins Highway Neighborhood Association and president of the council, Ruth Zeligent, spoke of. We are one of the newer ones in Mattapan. I think it's really important that I acknowledge, as a former liaison to the city, how important and meaningful and valuable civic associations are. I saw that Woodrow was actually here, and I remember helping Ms. Johnson in starting her association in addition to River Street and Edgewater, and the fact that they still exist really has mobilized and empowered our community to continue to be advocates. As it's mentioned here, I wanted to flag that I think the idea of a grant to provide technical assistance to civics is really important. As somebody who is managing my neighborhood association, it has become a part-time job that is very much unpaid. Out of pocket, I've spent well over $1,000 on providing resources to support with access. I think if a grant is going to be established, there definitely needs to be a need assessment around all the civics to identify what the needs are as it relates to accessibility, to standardize best practices and what resources should be available in that grant. I think the need for financial support as it relates to digital is really important. I want to shout out Adosa, who is one of our street captains. We have about 5 or 6 street captains in our association who has supported us in managing our social media Instagram account, and has also helped to establish other Instagram accounts in our neighborhood to increase accessibility, knowledge sharing, and I think the digital component is just it's definitely needed. It allows us to connect with the city, with city services, and to share the work that we are doing, our counselors are doing. Another item I think that is really important in this grant, in order to do this grant, is really mapping out and giving us a list of where all the civics are across the city. I don't think all the civic heads are aware of all of them. Not all of us were able to attend the Civic Summit. It had a cap, and so all civic heads were not present. I just kind of want to acknowledge the value of that. I think the resources to support accessing city resources to really combat the lack of knowledge that sometimes happens at civic meetings, that sometimes erode the work that is being done. I think the funding should really support teaching civics. This is something that is slowly making its way back to schools, but hasn't existed in schools. And that is really important as it relates to really understanding what our rights are as residents. I think as the funding should support designing place-based solutions, because every neighborhood is different, all the needs are different, really really speaking to the need of equity. In addition to that, I think it's really important that the funding support educating civics on how to manage meetings. All civics are different. Not all meetings. Sometimes residents will attend a meeting and then stop attending a meeting because they say they're not either comprehensive enough or they feel like they're not getting enough out of it to justify the time that they are investing. And I think teaching, standardizing teaching, meeting facilitation is important in increasing awareness and education. In addition to that, trying to really engage young adults in this space is really important. Our civic association, right now, in addition to our 5 street captains, we are about 500 plus doors. We target owners and renters. We empower our renters to be involved because we have renters that have lived in the neighborhood for over 30 years that do not own, but they have a voice and a space in our community. We want to make sure that that is clear. I think that's something that needs to be echoed across the city since we have so many renters that live here. In addition to that, I really hope that the funding would support providing and funding resources that are really focused on equity. And by that, it means thinking about which associations are actually that have the ability to be incorporated, that have someone that actually works full time versus those that do not, that are all volunteer based, that don't have technology and that don't have the resources to do things like print. We have flyered our community because we were advised that there are no city resources to print flyers, and we have spent hundreds, close to $1,000 flyering so that we can raise awareness around the things that we're doing, and we've paid that out of pocket. And that's very few individuals who are in that we. And I really want to acknowledge how much we appreciate the city having this hearing and acknowledging the value that civic associations bring to the community, and really critically thinking through the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Service. So thank you to Chief Brianna Miller around this work and how they're critically examining this. I do agree that sometimes at times in a civic association, I heard this today, like if you put on the flyer that you're gonna do development, people are gonna show up. And that's true. I think for our association, we really focus on building community, building relationships, having events. And what we've identified is the more we do social activities that engage and educate residents about who they are, how long they lived here, what they love about the neighborhood, what are the initiatives that they want to lead that have nothing to do with development, we saw an increase in participation. We have an average of at least 30 plus residents who've attended when we host in person. And I think that's because we really are focused on being solution oriented. So I'd like to see this grant really empower and allow us to use technical resources to educate our residents. The last thing I would say, as I know I've gone over my 2 minutes, has to do with the number of residents who are moving to the city who are not aware of the civics, and how it really is important that we connect with those residents so they learn about the history of the city and why these civics exist and how much value they have brought to the neighborhood. I know myself when I moved to the city, that was something that so many of the civic leaders taught me, the value of the civic, the value of the history of the work that they've done and how they work with city and state and federal agencies to protect their neighborhood and to advocate and be a voice. And I think a lot of residents who move here, even though Boston, Massachusetts is like a mecca of nonprofits, they are still not aware because there's many places in the country where civics do not exist, and for those that do exist, they may not operate like this. So I think pouring resources into the civics are really necessary, and our association is in support of this grant, and we would really like to see those resources go to the associations who are really in need. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Let's call on Luann O'Connor.
Hi, can you hear me this time?
Yes.
Okay, great. How are you, Councillor Pepin?
How are you, Luann?
I'm just lovely. I wanted to say thank you for hosting this meeting. I think it's very important. I like some of what I'm hearing, but I do agree with, I believe the gentleman's name was Vince, insofar as setting best practices for the civic associations citywide. I, for one, set our own best practices. And with that, we are now at the point of, my last meeting was last week, and I had 50 people in person and 30 people on Zoom. And it very well may have been the topic, which was the Summer Street pilot program with Matt Moran out of BTV. So I like the fact that the civic associations are being recognized, but I tend to fear that that is only with ONS versus transportation versus ZBA versus BPDA, particularly BPDA. So I just would like to make you all aware of that. If we're going to do this, then we all need to be on the same page. We can't have multiple messages coming out of different departments. The other thing that I would like to see is if we're going to look at technology, I'd like to be able to look at setting up an attorney's fund for civic associations that may have to sue developers because they pass its ZBA and against the community's wishes. There's not money available to do that. I don't know about in other neighborhoods, but I know here in South Boston there's not. I'm the president of the City Point Neighborhood Association. The other thing that I'd like to see is attorney, I don't know, quid pro quo maybe. I'm not sure what it's called, Councilor Louisiane, so feel free to help me out into what I'm trying to say. But where we can actually not only look for legal advice, but also 501(c) versus a 501(c), help to update our bylaws, help to update mission statements based on what we feel is important, not best practices. So I'm excited that this is happening. Out of ONS, I would like to see policy and procedure. Councilor Pepin, I asked for that when you were back in ONS, and to this day, we still don't have it. So if there's a situation that comes up and we go to ONS, and ONS either will not answer a question and just completely avoid it, or they can't provide policy and procedure. And I think that a department like that needs to have policy and procedure so that we can all go to it civic across the city of Boston. And I just want to give Andrea Campbell a big shout out. I was at her civic meeting over at the Kennedy Library, and it was probably one of the best civic meetings that I've attended. What I learned from that is across the city, we have more in common than we do in opposition to each other. So it was great. It was great to meet other civic heads. It was great to see what was important in other parts of the city, as well as our own part. So thank you very much. That's all I have to say, and I hope you'll take that into consideration.
Thank you, Luann. Appreciate your testimony. Seeing no other public testimonies, I will now give it to the co-sponsor for a closing statement.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to everyone who came and shared their voice to this conversation. This is going to be an ongoing conversation. It sounds like there is a request from the civics on some sort of assistance from the city. So what that looks like, I'm looking forward to having a working session, share, to kind of create some sort of pilot program on what are the next steps. So looking forward to the continued conversation. I just want to thank everyone who came to lend their voice to this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Louis-Jean.
I just want to say thank you to the chair for leading this conversation. I think it was very instructive and informative for me to hear from a wide variety, again, of civic orgs as an at-large city councilor, to hear the different perspectives, to hear the need for us to really center and root this in equity. And I really, in equity, not inequity, two different words. I look forward to our working session so we could learn more. I know that there are new civics that need help, and I understand the comments about how do we do it in a way to make sure that civic organizations don't feel like they're tethered to the city or that there would be some sort of conflict of interest. And I think that we can manage both to do things like what we saw from the Woodrow Avenue Neighborhood Association, the great website that was created, and for them feeling like they have at least some help, because it's a lot for some people that don't have anywhere, there's no funds, like it's a lot of out-of-pocket expense for something like flyering, which is, I think, something that's very basic that perhaps shouldn't have conflict issues if we're helping people in that end. So I think there are ways that we can have wins without creating conflicts, but looking forward to the working session.
Thank you, Council President. Councilor Durkin.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone's participation, and it was great to hear from civic leaders from across the city. And I also really want to thank the chair for bringing an idea forward, because I think there were so many different layers and a lot of perspective that was gleaned from having this hearing. So I appreciate participating in it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the sponsors for filing this. I definitely think that there is a need for financial or grant program to support civic associations. I think that obviously a conversation is warranted in terms of ensuring that we can prevent conflict of interest. And as I mentioned earlier, I do think that there should be a third party involvement so that they are handling the funds or the grants or the proposals that are received. And also, I mean, on one hand, you have, for example, District 7 is composed of 4 neighborhoods, and that's Roxbury, Dorchester, Fenway, and South End, with very different needs. And so if you go to Grove Hall in Dorchester, they will tell you that they have, tremendous need and lack of resources, for no fault to anyone, right? So disinvested neighborhoods have less resources, have less people to rely on in that sense. Even if you do have very educated, resourceful people, at times already spent, spread too thin in terms of the work that is needed. So there's definitely an inequitable imbalance here in terms of neighborhood comparisons. And I think the conversation in the working session that I look forward to, I agree with my council colleague, Council President Liu Zhen. Definitely, there's opportunity here and room here for us to talk about how to do that appropriately, and as well as figuring out exactly how we're going to make it equitable. I really appreciate the testimonies from everyone, because I think together we can put those conversations on the table. Everyone had really good points. One, let's make sure that we're not creating conflict of interest. So is it a third-party agency that's handling funds? And two, also from the civic associations, from Cummings and Rosendale, all speaking in terms of engagement and the lack of communication and transparency, figuring out those things through technical assistance. I love the idea about the attorney. I'm not sure the city is going to do that, but definitely think that it's needed. But I'm not sure the city is going to fund civic associations to pay for attorneys to sue the city. So, but that's another conversation.
But I agree with you, but it's
Go ahead.
Nothing.
You agree with me, but it's still a good idea, right?
No. I think the idea was to sue the developer, not necessarily the city, right?
I think they sue both, right? So then it's like, what does that look like, right? But anyway, thanks for stopping me, because I was going to keep going. Thank you.
Councilor Coletta.
Thank you, Chair, and I just want to share in the gratitude for everybody's participation. It's reflective of the tapestry of perspectives and needs that we have across the city, and especially thank Margaret Farmer and Victor for being here. Thank you so much, and everybody that wrote in from my district. I love a pilot program. I love the idea of having a working session, figuring out how we could do this, starting out small and incremental change and leading to bigger change and hopefully a longer term program, but certainly mirroring some of the existing programs that we have in the city. I do think that translation services is always something I will champion, just seeing that just because if you don't speak English doesn't mean that you can't participate in your neighborhood association, but just wanted to say that. But I think that there's a lot of things that we could be doing, and just look forward to future conversations. So thank you.
Thank you. And what I'll say is just thank you to my colleagues for participating today. Thank you to the creators of this hearing order, to the co-sponsors, to the panelists that participated, to the public testimonies. Thank you all so much for being part of this conversation. It's one that's very important for my committee of city services and technology innovation, because when it comes to civic groups, it's about our residents. And if our residents need support and feeling connected and building community, that's what we should do. So I look forward to hosting a working session about this conversation and seeing all of you in that conversation. But with that, this hearing is adjourned.